What if everything you've been taught about Jesus was a lie? What if his return isn't coming the way you think it is? Not through clouds, not through trumpets, but through frequency. I know how it sounds, crazy, blasphemous, but listen. Before you judge me, before you click away, let me ask you one thing. Why are you still waiting for something that might already be happening? My name is Frank Morrison, 62 years old. No kids, no wife, just silence, coffee, and broken machines. But 3 nights ago, something fell from the sky. It wasn't a star. It wasn't a meteor. It was a ship. A real one, metallic, seamless, breathing, and inside it, someone was waiting for me. He didn't come in war. He didn't come to take over Earth. He came broken, stranded, and he said my name before I even spoke. Frank, I've been watching you. No mouth moved. The voice was inside my skull, clear, echoing. He told me something no church ever dared to say, something that made every Bible verse I knew shake inside my soul. Jesus is not coming back the way they told you. I asked him what he meant. He said, the return has already begun, but only those who raise their inner frequency will recognize it. I laughed. I told him to stop with the New Age talk, but then he showed me something that made me drop to my knees. Not a prophecy, not a vision, a recording, a hologram of Jesus, real, alive, teaching, no crown, no glowing halo, just a man surrounded by a small group, saying words I've never heard in any church sermon. Words like, the kingdom of God is not coming to you. It's within you. You will do greater things than I did. You are not meant to wait. You are meant to create. And in that moment I realized they've hidden everything from us. The churches, the governments, the ones who profit from control. Because if you knew the truth, the real truth, you wouldn't just pray for miracles. You'd become one. But here's the twist. That alien didn't. Just show me Jesus. He told me how he really manifested reality and why he never begged, but always gave thanks before it happened. He said the second coming. It's not an event. It's a state of being, a frequency when you reach it. You don't see Jesus in the clouds. You see him in the mirror. And if this sounds insane, then you're exactly where I was. But what I experienced next, what I manifested the very next day, shattered every doubt I had left, because the alien gave me a gift, a small, glowing crystal, and a challenge. Pick something impossible, a number, a sign, feel it like it already happened. Give thanks, and then just wait. So I picked a number I hadn't seen in 20 years. 47. What happened in the next 6 hours made me question everything I've ever believed about prayer, God, and the return of Christ. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I tell you what I saw, before I show you the evidence that Jesus has already returned, not in body, but in consciousness, take you back to where it all began, to the moment that ship fell from the sky. And the voice inside my head asked me, do you really want to know the truth? Even if it destroys your version of God? Before I show you the recording, before I reveal what Jesus actually said word for word, I need you to do something important. Comment below, right now. Tell me, have you ever felt like something about religion just didn't add up? Like there was a deeper truth hiding behind the stories? I'm not asking for your agreement. I'm asking for your presence. Because the kind of truth I'm about to share isn't just information, it's activation. If you felt chills while watching this, if some part of your heart whispered, this is what I've been waiting for, then don't stay silent. Drop a comment. Let this become a space for those who are waking up. Because once you know this, once you see what I saw, you can't go back. And listen, if this story is making you question everything, if it's unlocking something you've buried for years, hit that like button so this truth reaches more people who are still stuck in the illusion. Subscribe if you're ready for more. Because what you've seen so far, it's just the beginning. This isn't entertainment, this is remembrance of who Jesus really was. Of what he actually taught, of the power that still lives inside you. You weren't born to wait for heaven. You were born to bring it here. I remember standing there, the cold concrete under my feet, holding that crystal in my hand. It pulsed, not like a machine, but like a heartbeat. Gentle, steady, almost alive. It was warm, and not in a logical way. It wasn't reacting to my body heat, it was something else. I couldn't explain it, and honestly, I didn't want to. Some things aren't meant to be broken down. Some things are just meant to be felt. The alien, I still don't even know what to call him, I never asked for a name, stood there just watching me. No pressure, no urgency, just this quiet presence. Like he'd done this 1,000 times before with other people, and now it was my turn. My initiation. He said, choose something small but meaningful. A number, a word, a name, something with weight for you. And don't just wish for it, feel it, as if it already happened. That's how Jesus did it. I wanted to laugh, I really did. I mean, come on, Jesus. Manifestation, frequencies. But I couldn't, because the way he said it made something in me break open. So I chose 47. It wasn't random. It was the number my ex-wife always said was her lucky number. I hadn't seen it in years. It was buried in my past like everything else I never wanted to think about again. But I whispered it anyway. 47. The alien nodded, his black eyes reflecting the faint light of the ship's control panel. He told me to feel it like it already happened. To imagine seeing it, not begging for it, not hoping, but thanking the universe in advance. Thanking God, as if the number was already in front of me. It was hard. My whole life I'd prayed from lack, from fear, from desperation. Please, God, help me, fix me, save me. I'd been kneeling in the same energy for decades, and now this being was telling me that it was never supposed to be like that. Gratitude, he said, is the password. So I stood there, eyes closed, crystal in hand, and whispered under my breath, "Thank you for showing me 47. It felt ridiculous, like I was pretending, but somewhere deep, I felt a flicker, a warmth in my chest, a weird kind of peace I couldn't explain. And I held on to it even though my brain screamed, "You're making this up," and then I let it go. I walked away from the ship. The being didn't follow. He didn't have to. The seed had already been planted. 6 hours later, my truck had a flat tire. I pulled over, irritated. Nothing out of the ordinary. I went to grab the spare from the trunk, and there it was. A faded sticker inside the lid. Inspection code. Number 47. I froze. It had always been there, I just never saw it, or maybe I wasn't supposed to see it until now. I thought, okay, coincidence. But then at the grocery store, the total? $1.47 even. The receipt? Invoice number 470,047. Magazine I picked up while waiting in line? 47 Ways to Change Your Life. And the car that parked next to me. License plate, TRK 4700. It wasn't just a coincidence. Not anymore. Not after the fourth time. Not after the fifth. Something was happening. Something. Real. I don't care how skeptical you are. After 5 identical signs in 6 hours, you stop rolling your eyes and start paying attention. When I got home that night, the ship was glowing. Subtle. Like it was alive again. Restored. The alien greeted me without words, just a calm energy. "You saw it." "I saw it 5 times, I whispered. He smiled. Not with a mouth, but with his presence. "That's your proof," he said. "How Jesus did it. And that's how his return is unfolding." I asked. What he meant and what he said next shattered everything. He is returning, but not in form and frequency. His teachings are reactivating in those who are ready, not the distorted ones, the real ones. And only those aligned will recognize the signs. The second coming was not a man descending from the sky. It was a remembrance awakening inside us, a mirror being placed in front of our faces. And if that feels disappointing to you, I get it. I felt the same way. We want thunder, clouds, fire, chariots, but maybe that was never the point. Maybe the return of Christ was never meant to be external. Maybe it was meant to be felt, lived, embodied. Maybe you were meant to be part of it. He showed me more that night. I'll get to that. The holograms, the real teachings, the energy field around Jesus when he healed people. But what stayed with me most wasn't what I saw. It was what I realized, that for years I'd been waiting for a Messiah, when in reality, the Messiah had been waiting for me to remember who I really was. And I don't care what religion you are, this isn't about doctrine. This is about activation. This is about waking up. And listen, I don't need you to believe everything I'm saying. But if any part of your soul is tingling right now, if some quiet little whisper inside your chest is saying, "I've felt this before," or "This explains everything I never could say out loud," then comment below. I mean it. Tell me if you've ever had a moment like this, where reality bent just enough to show you that something bigger was at play. Or just comment 47 if you've seen that number too. Trust me, you won't be the only one. And if you've made it this far, hit the like. Not for me, but so this story reaches more people who need to hear it. And subscribe if you're ready to go deeper, because what I'm about to share next, about Jesus, the true teachings, and what the alien showed me in that final night, will change everything. I couldn't sleep that night, not because I was afraid, but because something had cracked open inside me. I wasn't the same man anymore, not fully. Something had shifted, quietly but permanently. The ship still glowed faintly from within the barn. It pulsed like a breath. I remember standing in the doorway, just watching it, not touching anything, just observing, like I was in the presence of something sacred, something that didn't belong to this world, but somehow had everything to do with it. The alien sat near the ship, eyes closed, unmoving as if meditating. I wondered if he slept or even needed to. I whispered his name out of instinct, even though he never gave me one. He opened his eyes. "You're not ready to sleep," he said in that same calm, telepathic voice. "You're ready for the truth." I swallowed hard. "What truth?" He gestured to the ship. "Inside, I can show you something. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Are you sure you want that?" I nodded. He rose without effort and walked to the panel. A few taps later, the air in front of us shimmered. I expected a screen. What appeared was a presence. A distortion in the air, like heat waves bending light. Then images began to take form. Not pictures. Moments. It was Jesus. But not the Jesus from stained glass windows. It's not the blonde-haired, blue-eyed version from Sunday school books, no. He looked like a man from the Middle East. Brown skin, intense, dark eyes, hair tied back, short beard, worn sandals, a simple earth-colored robe. And when he moved, there was something different, like the air around him obeyed him. Not out of force, but because of his frequency. "He's not glowing," I said out loud, surprised. "No," the alien responded, "because truth doesn't need embellishment." The image was alive. It was as if we were there with him. like time folded inward and opened a window to the past. The alien explained this was not a reenactment, it was a recording, captured in ways beyond human comprehension through a technology that measured energy, sound vibration, intention. And then I heard it, not in my ears but directly inside my mind. Words, concepts, truth Jesus was teaching. Not in a temple, not on a stage, just outside, beneath a tree, with a few people around him. And what he said didn't match any sermon I'd ever heard. He spoke of the kingdom of God not as a place to go, but as a state of being you enter. He said, "The kingdom is not in the clouds. It is not reserved for the dead. It is within you, here, now. When you remember who you are, it awakens." A chill spread through my chest. I asked the alien, "But why didn't anyone tell us this? Why don't pastors preach this?" He just looked at me. "Because if you understand your power," he said, "you no longer need them." The scene shifted. Now Jesus was speaking more intensely. His gestures were passionate, urgent. He pointed to the people around him, then to his own heart, then to the sky, and said, "I and the Father are one, and you are not separate. You are waves of the same ocean. Stop worshiping separation. You are not children of sin. You are children of light." My knees felt weak. I sat down without realizing it. I'd heard "I and the Father are one" 1,000 times. But the way he said it, the way the energy of the moment unfolded, it didn't feel arrogant. It didn't feel exclusive. It felt like a mirror being placed before us. And then it hit me. He wasn't saying he was special. He was saying we all were. But we forgot, and then they buried it. Buried the message in ritual, in fear, in guilt, in shame. Because if people knew they were creators, if they truly remembered, they would stop asking permission to live, to heal, to thrive. Another scene unfolded. Jesus kneeling in prayer. I recognized it. I'd seen paintings of this moment, Gethsemane. But this version, it was different. He wasn't begging. He wasn't pleading. He was thanking. His hands lifted gently, eyes closed, mouth relaxed. The energy around him surged. I could see it. A golden aura pulsing outward in waves. And I realized something that shattered me. He never begged. He thanked before it came. He praised before the bread multiplied. He gave thanks for the healing before it occurred. He wasn't praying for miracles. He was aligning with them. The alien whispered in my mind. He didn't ask for proof. He became the proof. I felt tears. Because for decades I'd done the opposite. I'd begged, I pleaded. I cried out to a God I thought was outside of me. I waited. I blamed. I felt forgotten, not knowing I was the one forgetting. I asked the alien, "Why did anyone teach us this?" "They tried," he said. "But fear was easier to sell than empowerment." The recording faded, but something lingered in the air. A hum, a knowing. I stood there in silence, the truth vibrating through my body like sound without sound. All my life I thought I was just a man. But what if I wasn't? What if the second coming of Christ wasn't about a sky splitting open, but about billions of people waking up to the Christ inside themselves? What if that's what he meant when he said, "You will do greater things than I have done"? And the alien said something I'll never forget. When two or more gather in the name of that frequency of love, gratitude, certainty, Christ appears, not as a man, as a state of consciousness. I looked at him, speechless. He nodded once, solemnly. "You are not a sinner," he said. "You are a creator who forgot, and now you are remembering. There was no light show, no thunder, just silence." And the silence was louder than anything I had ever heard. If you felt something while watching this, anything, I want to hear from you. Maybe you've never seen a ship fall from the sky. Maybe you've never held a glowing crystal. But I know this truth lives inside you too. Tell me in the comments if you've ever felt like Jesus was misunderstood, like his real message was buried beneath centuries of control, or just comment, "I'm remembering," if something about this story is awakening something in you. And if you want more, if you feel like this is the truth you've been waiting your whole life to hear, don't forget to like this video. It helps more people wake up. I didn't speak for the rest of that night. There was nothing left to say, not with words. The alien had returned to his meditative posture near the ship, and I sat in the shadows of the barn, knees bent, back against a beam, staring into nothing and everything all at once. My mind wasn't racing. It was still, hollow, like a space had been cleared inside me, a void waiting to be filled, not with answers, but with presence. I didn't sleep, not even for a second. Time didn't feel real anymore. I just kept replaying that hologram in my head. Jesus beneath that tree, Jesus lifting his hands in gratitude before the miracle, Jesus declaring that we were waves of the same ocean. All my life I thought knowing God meant being small. But that night, for the first time, I understood that knowing God meant remembering my own vastness. The next morning, I walked back toward the house. But as soon as I opened the door, something felt different. I didn't know how to explain it. The same walls, the same dusty windows, the same fridge humming in the corner. But I could feel the space, like I could sense its energy. I noticed little things. The way the light came through the window, hitting the kitchen table. The sound of the kettle clicking before the whistle. The weight of the mug in my hand. Everything had presence. as if it had always been trying to talk to me, but I'd only just started listening. When I looked out the window toward the barn, I didn't just see a ship anymore. I saw a portal, a teacher, a mirror, and something in me whispered, "Go back." So I did. But this time the alien was standing, waiting. "You're beginning to remember," he said without speaking. I nodded. "What now?" I asked him. "You showed me Jesus. You showed me the truth, but what do I do with it?" He tilted his head slightly, like a parent waiting for a child to think just one more step. "You live it," he said simply, "and you master it. You've seen the message. Now it's time to practice the mechanics." I blinked. "Mechanics?" He motioned toward the ship. "You fixed this, not with faith, but with understanding. You saw the broken systems, the disconnected points, and you reconnected them. Do you see the parallel?" And suddenly I did. My thoughts, my beliefs, my emotions, for 62 years. They'd been like that broken ship, misfiring, unaligned. I'd been trying to fly with a damaged system, praying for movement while leaking energy through every thought of lack, guilt, shame, and doubt. I sat down heavily on a stool. "But how?" I asked. "How do I fix me?" He raised a long finger and pointed it gently at the center of my chest. "Begin here. Every morning. 5 minutes. Gratitude, not for what you have, but for what's coming. Gratitude, not as a trick, but as an anchor." He explained that my body was an amplifier, that every thought carried frequency, that every emotion was an instruction, and that the universe, the field, the source, God, didn't respond to begging. It responded to alignment. "You've prayed for years and nothing changed," he said, "because your prayers were declarations of absence. You were asking for light while staring at the dark. You must declare what is coming as if it is already here." I looked at my hands. Calloused, dirty, human. "But how do I believe something I can't see?" He smiled. Or maybe I just felt the smile inside me. "By feeling it before you see it. Just like Jesus did." He walked to the side of the ship and pulled open a compartment. Inside were 3 crystals, each one slightly different. One glowed gold, one shimmered blue, and the third pulsed with a deep red hue. He handed them to me without explanation. "You'll know what to do," he said. I held them carefully. They vibrated in my palm, not violently, but like they were syncing with my heartbeat. He continued, "Use one during your morning practice. Keep one with you. Sleep with the other beneath your pillow. These aren't magic. They're tools, amplifiers, until you don't need them anymore." I wanted to ask a million questions. Where did they come from? What exactly were they made of? But I didn't, because deep down, I already knew those answers didn't matter. What mattered was what I did with them. That night I tried the practice. It felt awkward, forced, like pretending to be someone I wasn't, but I kept going. I closed my eyes, I held the gold crystal, and I imagined a version of myself that wasn't broken. I imagined waking up with no back pain. I imagined smiling more. I imagined getting a phone call, unexpected, offering me work again. Something simple, honest. I felt the warmth rise in my chest. I whispered, "Thank you," even though nothing had happened yet. But that was the key, feeling it as if it had. The next day I didn't hear from anyone, but I felt different. I didn't complain once, and I caught myself 3 times, starting to think an old thought. "I'm too old. I missed my chance. It's too late." But I stopped. I replaced it. "I'm just getting started." The alien told me this would be the hardest part, not the knowledge, not the awakening, the discipline, the constant observation of thought, the emotional self-correction. He called it spiritual engineering, because every day you're building reality, brick by brick, thought by thought, feeling by feeling. Most people are creating unconsciously, rebuilding prisons made of memories, repeating frequencies from childhood wounds, from fear-based doctrines, from lies. Jesus came to teach us how to break that loop, how to build something new, and I understood now why they silenced him. Because the moment you realize you can create your own reality, the moment you stop outsourcing your power, the churches, governments, systems, you become ungovernable, not rebellious, not chaotic, free. And people who are free don't need permission to shine. I sat with that for hours. That I wasn't supposed to worship Jesus. I was supposed to become like him, not in glory, in practice, in thought, in frequency. Because the second coming wasn't a rescue, it was a reminder. He wasn't coming to save the world. He came to teach the world how to save itself. And now it's our turn. But I'll continue that. And the next part, if you've made it this far, I want to hear from you. Seriously, if any part of this resonated, if it sparked something deep in your memory, tell me in the comments. Tell me what you felt during the visualization. Tell me what you've been trying to manifest. Or simply comment, "I'm realigning." And if you want to keep going with me on this journey, hit that like button so this reaches more souls who are ready. And subscribe, because the next thing the alien showed me wasn't about Jesus anymore. It was about us. The next morning felt strange. Not because anything was visibly different. The sky was still overcast, the barn still quiet, the field still soaked from last night's dew, but because I could feel something shifting inside me, not in a dramatic, lightning-struck way. It's no fireworks, no angels singing, just this steady hum under my skin, like something deep in my bones was finally turning back on. It was subtle, but it was real. I brewed coffee in silence and sat at the kitchen table with the gold crystal still in my hand. Not because I thought it was magical, but because every time I touched it, I remembered that I was not small, that I was no longer allowed to act like a victim and pretend I didn't know better. That era of my life was over. I sat there looking out at the barn, and for the first time I realized I wasn't just waiting for answers anymore, I was becoming them. By the time I stepped outside, the alien was already waiting, not sitting, standing. His posture was straighter, stronger, more alert. It was like something in him had shifted too. "You've begun to emit a different field," he said without moving his mouth. "Subtle but measurable. Your frequency is stabilizing." I didn't understand how he could tell I wasn't doing anything. But then again, maybe that was the point. This wasn't about doing. It was about being. He turned toward the ship and placed his hand on a panel. It lit up. Symbols glowed across the surface, not static letters, but living energy. They moved, shifted, responded to his presence. "What is that?" I asked, finally breaking the silence. "Your blueprint," he answered. "Or rather, the human blueprint. It was always within you, encoded, buried. But now that you've begun to remember, you can access it again." He didn't explain further. He didn't have to, because what happened next didn't need words. He turned to me, placed one hand lightly on my chest, and the moment he did, everything disappeared. Not physically, not like I left the barn or my body, but my awareness was pulled inward, deep, fast, like being sucked through a tunnel of light and memory. I don't know how long it lasted. Could have been seconds, could have been years, but I saw everything. I saw my own childhood, not just the events, but the emotions underneath them. The smallness, the guilt, the unworthiness I had swallowed like poison. I saw the day I stopped believing in miracles. The moment I decided prayer was useless. The moment I handed over my power in exchange for safety. And then I saw the architecture of my own belief system, not as thoughts or words, but as structures. Energetic constructs. Rooms built out of old stories. Some collapsed, some still standing. I saw the room where I believed God was far away. The room where I thought I wasn't worthy. The room where I thought pain meant punishment. The room where I blamed everyone but myself. I felt shame rise up, deep and heavy, but the alien's voice cut through it. "You built these rooms, and now you can choose to rebuild." The images shifted again. Now I saw the collective humanity, asleep. Rows and rows of people in dim light, staring at screens, whispering prayers they didn't believe in, asking for signs they wouldn't recognize if they appeared, begging a distant sky for what they already carried inside. I saw churches preaching guilt, governments selling fear, systems feeding off division, and I saw how people clung to those things not because they were true, but because they were familiar. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Because remembering is not enough," he said. "You must also understand the resistance. You must see the machine that benefits from your sleep." And I saw it, the machine, not literal, but energetic, a system built on forgetfulness, a spiritual algorithm that rewards numbness, obedience, shame, a system that punishes clarity and mocks intuition, a machine that feeds on unworthiness. And I knew in that moment, not intellectually but viscerally, why Jesus was dangerous. Not because he claimed to be God, but because he told others they were too, that they could heal, that they could manifest, that they didn't need temples or middlemen or rituals soaked in fear, that the kingdom was already inside them. He taught people how to unlock their own blueprints, and that's why they silenced him, because he threatened the machine. When I snapped back to my body, I was on my knees, sweating, hands shaking. The alien stood quietly, watching me with those still, ancient eyes. "You've seen it now," he said. "You've seen both the truth and the trap." I nodded, barely able to speak. He continued, softer now. "Many who begin to awaken get overwhelmed. They feel the weight of what they missed, the years lost, the pain they caused or tolerated. But guilt is a frequency of the machine. Don't feed it. Don't let awakening become another prison." That hit me, harder than anything else, because I was already doing it. I was already slipping into shame over how long I'd been blind, over how many years I'd wasted thinking I was broken, over how many times I'd prayed wrong, thought wrong, lived wrong. But now I knew that was just the trap in a new disguise. It was just victimhood wearing a spiritual mask, and I refused to go back. So I stood up, not perfectly, not gracefully, but I stood. "I want to live this," I said. "All of it. Not just believe it, not just talk about it. I want to embody it." The alien stepped closer. "Then you must start seeing your thoughts as tools, your emotions as fuel, your words as blueprints. You must observe without judgment, shift without guilt, and choose again and again and again until the new becomes natural." I asked him, "How long does it take?" He tilted his head. "It doesn't matter, because time isn't what you think it is. It bends to frequency. The more you align, the faster the field responds. The universe doesn't speak in minutes. It speaks in momentum." That sentence still echoes in me. The universe speaks in momentum, and every time I think a new thought, every time I shift my emotional state, every time I catch myself falling back into that old loop and I choose something higher, I build momentum, not for God to love me, not for salvation, but because I finally understand how creation works, because I finally stopped waiting for a rescue I didn't need. That's where I'll pick up in the next part. But if something in this story stirred something in you, even a flicker, I want to hear it. Tell me, what was your room? What belief did you build that you're ready to tear down? Drop a comment, even just a sentence. You can write, "I'm rebuilding," or tell me which part hit you the hardest. And if you want more of this truth that was never meant to be hidden, like this video, so others find it. And subscribe, because what the alien told me next wasn't just a revelation, it was a warning. The moment he said the word warning, something in my chest tightened. Not from fear, exactly. It wasn't the kind of terror you feel when a car swerves or a door slams in the dark. It was deeper, slower, like a fog rolling in before a storm, letting you know the world is about to change again. I watched the alien walk back toward the ship, his steps silent against the dirt floor. He placed his hand on the hull and it responded, a wave of light pulsing out like ripples on a pond. The panels shifted, the air shimmered, and then a projection formed. But this time it wasn't Jesus, it was us, humans, present day. People walking through city streets, heads down, faces blank, phones glowing in their hands, news screens blaring behind them, everything gray, flickering fast. And then, like the camera of some invisible intelligence, the vision zoomed out, revealing more and more people, all moving in circles, literal circles, paths carved into the ground. From repetition, the same thoughts, the same fears, the same frequencies. It wasn't judgmental, it wasn't angry, but it was devastating. The alien turned to me. "You were never meant to live like this." I nodded slowly. "I know. I can feel that now, but why show me this? Why call it a warning?" He gestured toward the projection. "Because a storm is coming. Not from the sky. Not from any government. From within. The system you call reality is beginning to collapse under its own lies." The projection changed again. Now it showed systems breaking down. Financial institutions, educational structures, health systems, religious organizations. Cracks forming, spreading like veins of light in the dark, like the old world was unraveling. "The collapse is necessary," he said calmly. "But humans aren't ready. Most will think it's punishment. Most will cling harder to the machine. They will beg for saviors. They will sacrifice freedom for comfort, truth for security, and they will call it faith." I didn't realize I was holding my breath until he paused. I let the air out, slow. "And what about the ones who are awakening?" I asked. "The ones who remember?" He looked at me, and this time there was something different in his eyes. Sorrow, and then responsibility. "They will be called crazy, dangerous, heretical. Some will be silenced. Others will be elevated, but only if they distort the message. Only if they dilute it, package it, sell it." I felt sick. "Then what do we do?" I asked. "You live it anyway," he said. "You become the frequency. Not the preacher of it, the proof of it." That hit me like a punch to the chest, because deep down I already knew. The world doesn't need more talkers. It doesn't need more people saying love and light while living in fear. It doesn't need more books, more lectures, more gurus. It needs embodiment. People who live the frequency of Christ, not in word but in energy. People who move through the chaos like a tuning fork, quiet, unshaken, clear. "You won't convince them with logic," he said. "You will shift them with presence." And I remembered what he told me earlier. "When two or more gather in my name, I am there." But now I understood what name really meant. It wasn't the letters JESUS. It was the field, the frequency. When two or more gather in the frequency of Christ, love, certainty, gratitude, alignment, he appears. Not as a man, as a mirror, as memory, as activation. I wanted to cry, not from sadness, but from the weight of it all, the weight of being alive now during this moment in human history. Not as a mistake, but as a match, a resonance, a soul that chose to come here for this, for the storm, for the collapse, for the recreation. The alien said Jesus was not the exception. He was the example. That line lit something inside me, not a flame, a sun. He continued. He taught manifestation not for glory, but for survival. He showed you how to create reality because he knew this moment would come. This moment, right now, where humans would need to remember not just who God is, but who they are in God. I swallowed hard. The projection zoomed out again, and now I saw something else, something beautiful. Amid the collapsing systems, I saw sparks, lights, people like me scattered across the planet beginning to glow. Some were meditating. Others were sitting with a crying child. One was planting seeds. Another was painting. One was just breathing, eyes closed, smiling. They weren't preaching. They weren't fighting. They were simply being, anchoring something new. The alien turned toward me and said, "This is why you were chosen to see. Not because you were better, but because you were finally quiet enough to listen." I didn't know what to say. I didn't feel worthy. But then again, maybe that feeling, that humility was exactly what was required. The kind of power that doesn't need to shout, that doesn't need a stage, that just is. We stood in silence for a long time, and the Then I asked the question that had been building in me from the start, will he ever come back physically? Jesus, I mean. The alien paused, and then said something that still gives me chills. He never left. He just stopped being recognized. I felt tears forming again, because now I saw it. He's been in every moment of compassion, in every act of forgiveness, in every seed planted, every hand held, every truth whispered into the dark. His return is a remembering. And those who awaken to that frequency become the return. They don't worship it. They don't wait for it. They carry it. So here I am carrying it the best I can. And if you've watched this far, if you're still here, maybe you're one of them too. Maybe you've felt that storm in your chest. Maybe you've seen the cracks in the machine. Maybe you've heard the whisper that says it's time. Tell me below. You can comment something as simple as I'm part of the return, or share a dream you had, a moment where something shifted for you, even if you didn't understand it at the time. Let's make the comments a space of remembering. And if you feel this message, if it moves something inside you like this video so others feel it too. We're in the algorithm, but we're also in the field, and your energy affects more than you think. And subscribe if you're ready for the next part, because what the alien told me after that was not just about humanity. It was about what happens after. I wasn't ready for what he said next. Not because it was too much or too complex, but because it touched a part of me I didn't even know was there. Some deep, buried longing I'd carried since childhood. A silent ache I never had the courage to name. What happens after? I asked him. After the collapse. After the remembering. After the return of this Christ frequency in us. The alien didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked to the edge of the barn, placed his long fingers on the wooden beam, and stared out into the horizon like he was watching something I couldn't see yet. He was quiet for so long I thought maybe he wasn't going to respond at all. But then, in that slow, calm, unmistakable voice inside my mind, he said, "There is no after for those still trapped in time." That sentence didn't make sense at first, but it landed in me like a seed being planted in soil it had waited lifetimes to find. He turned back toward me, his gaze softer now, almost human, but not quite. "You think of life in chapters," he said, "in beginnings and endings. But where we come from, there is only vibration, only states of being. You shift, and the world shifts around you. The after is not a destination, it's a dimension." I stepped closer, my heart pounding. "So, you're saying we don't go anywhere?" He nodded. "Not the way you think. You don't escape the earth. You don't ascend into the clouds. You rise within. You match a new field. And when enough of you do, the fabric of this reality reweaves itself." He paused, letting the words sink in. "People call it heaven," he continued, "but it's not a place. It's a frequency." That's when I understood. The return of Jesus wasn't just a spiritual event. It was a dimensional shift, a collective awakening that didn't require a savior from above, but creators from within. And as more of us awaken, we begin to bend reality around us, not through effort, not through control, but through alignment. We become portals, not to escape the earth, but to remake it. And yet the alien's expression darkened. "There is a danger," he said. I felt it before he even spoke the next words. "A false light is coming." That phrase hit me hard, sharp, cold. "What do you mean?" He stepped back, the projection flickering again behind him. It now showed what looked like a shining figure, glowing, radiant, commanding attention. People falling to their knees, worshipping, surrendering. But something was wrong. The light didn't feel warm. It felt sterile, hollow, manufactured. He explained that not all that shines is divine. He said that after the collapse, after the great remembering begins, the old system will panic. It will mimic the light. It will create artificial saviors, false messengers, narratives so seductive, so close to the truth that even the awakened will feel tempted. They will speak of peace, he said, but they will demand obedience. They will wear symbols of the Christ, but they will deny the Christ within. They will promise order, but they will silence your intuition. I felt my stomach twist. I asked, "How do we know the difference?" He turned to me and said without hesitation, "You will feel it in your body. Truth does not confuse. It does not contract. It expands." Then he stepped closer and placed his hand near my heart. "This," he said, "is your compass, not their doctrine, not your fears, not the volume of the crowd." He explained that in the days to come, our greatest danger will not be destruction. It will be distraction. That humanity will be offered peace in exchange for powerlessness, comfort in exchange for silence. That the saviors will look like angels but ask for our sovereignty. And those who resist will be mocked, labeled unstable, dangerous, radical. But you must remember, he said, the ones who shift timelines are always called mad by those who cling to the old. I stood there, staring at the flickering vision of this false light, and it hit me. This wasn't just a spiritual war. It was a war of perception, not fought with weapons but with frequency, and the battlefield was within. How you think, what you feel, what you agree to believe, because every belief is a frequency code. And when enough people agree on the same code, they anchor a reality. That's why they need your attention, your fear, your worship, your silence. Because without your agreement, the old system collapses. That's why awakening is dangerous. Not because it's loud, but because it quietly undoes the illusion. The alien told me that Jesus taught this too. That's why he said, let your yes be yes and your no, no, because anything else opens the door to confusion, to distortion. He wasn't just talking about honesty. He was talking about energetic consent. Where you place your agreement is where you place your power. And in the days to come, we will all be asked to agree to something, to align with a version of truth that feels just close enough to the real one that we doubt our knowing. That's when we have to choose, not with our eyes, not with our ears, but with our frequency, with our inner resonance. The alien said there will be signs, strange ones, numbers appearing, technology behaving oddly, people dreaming the same dream on the same night, children speaking truths they never learned, animals migrating where they never have, ancient symbols resurfacing in unexpected places. Synchronicities will increase, but not all of them will be pure. You must discern with your vibration, he said. Not every sign is for you, and not every message is divine. Some are meant to distract, to lure. I asked him how to stay grounded in the truth when so much illusion is coming. He replied simply, practice presence, return to stillness, feel your body. The Christ's frequency cannot be hijacked, but your mind can. He reminded me of the 3 crystals he had given me. Use them now, he said. They're not holy. They're not sacred. They're just reminders, anchors. I nodded. The gold one for gratitude, the blue for clarity, the red for courage, all frequencies I would need in the days ahead. And then he said something I'll never forget. The second coming is not Jesus stepping through the clouds. It's you stepping through your fear. I felt my breath catch in my throat, because I understood. I wasn't just being told the truth. I was being prepared to carry it, to walk into a world that would try to sell me a version of light that required my surrender, and to say, no, to stand in the frequency of Christ, not as a worshiper, but as a mirror. And if you're still watching, if any part of this stirred something in your chest, a whisper, a memory, a flicker of something you can't name yet, I want to hear from you. Comment below. Maybe just write, I choose the real light. Or tell me a moment when your body knew the truth before your mind did. Every comment becomes a frequency signal. And if you felt this, if it woke something in you, like this video, the algorithm reflects what the field already knows. The moment he said, what comes after this world, I felt something shift around us, like the air got heavier, thicker, as if reality itself was bracing for what was about to be said. It's the barn, the dirt, the wood beams, even the light leaking in through the cracks. It all suddenly felt like a stage that was about to dissolve, like a veil hanging by a single thread. My body tensed, not in fear, but in preparation. After? I asked him. After. The earth? He turned toward me, slower this time. His eyes no longer felt distant or alien, they felt ancient, as if they'd seen too much, held too much, and still chose to return. What comes after, he said, is not a place. It's a remembering of where you've always been. He walked to the center of the barn, placed one palm against the soil beneath us, and closed his eyes. A quiet hum rose in the air, low, resonant, steady. It wasn't coming from the ship, it was coming from below, from within, and then without warning, the space around us dissolved. We didn't move, but the barn was gone. The field, the sky, even my body, gone. I was still me, but I wasn't confined to form anymore. There were no walls, no ground, only light, endless, alive, infinite light, stretching in every direction like a fabric that breathed. I didn't feel fear. I felt home, but it wasn't a home like Earth. It was a home made of memory, made of knowing. I could feel the thoughts of others, not as words, but as waves. I could feel the presence of what you might call souls, but that word doesn't do it justice. They weren't floating ghosts. They were vast, vibrational, full. Each one was like a song, some still fragmented, some in full harmony, each of them returning. This, the alien said from beside me, though his mouth didn't move, is what you call the afterlife. But you misunderstand it. It is not the end of your story. It's the space between songs. I couldn't speak, not because I didn't have a mouth, but because language had no place here. Here everything was direct knowing, no confusion, no doubt, just truth, pulsing like a second heartbeat in the soul. I saw things I couldn't explain, not with earth words. I saw geometries folding in on themselves, each one containing layers of timelines. I saw versions of Earth stacked like pages in a book, some in ruin, some in light, some still being written. I saw the frequency of regret floating off newly arrived souls like smoke dissolving slowly in the ocean of this light realm. I saw others clinging to their old identities, preachers still preaching, victims still blaming, warriors still fighting shadows that no longer existed. And I understood. You carry with you what you refuse to release, even here, even after death. And that's why this remembering matters now while we're still in body. Because if we wait until the end to realize the illusion, we carry the echo into what's next. We miss the grace of full presence. We wake up confused, still clutching a name, a trauma, a belief system that no longer applies. The alien showed me a soul, newly arrived. She was crying, but not because of fear, because of beauty. She remembered everything at once. Every life, every person she loved, every lesson she forgot. Every time she begged for a sign that had already arrived. Every time she doubted the love that was always inside her. I watched her collapse into light, not disappear, integrate, become whole. And then he turned to me and said, "This is what awaits those who remember. Not reward, not punishment, integration." I asked, "Is this heaven?" He looked into me. Not at me, into me. No, heaven is a vibration. You can enter it from any realm, even earth, especially earth. Most who awaken do so there, where contrast sharpens clarity. And then I saw it. Souls preparing to incarnate. They weren't being forced. They were choosing it. Choosing to return to earth, knowing the pain, the density, the forgetting, and doing it anyway. Some out of curiosity, others out of duty, but many out of love. They weren't punished souls, they were volunteers. Warriors of light who didn't need swords. They only needed memory. You chose to return, he said. Many times. And you'll likely choose again. But not until you've processed what you came to retrieve. I was silent. He continued, "The purpose is not to escape Earth. It's to bring this frequency there. To be the bridge. To remember so deeply that your very presence becomes a portal for others." And I understood why Jesus didn't stay in the clouds. He walked, he wept, he bled. Because even though he came from this higher realm, he chose to embody it on earth, to demonstrate what it looks like to be divine and human, to collapse the lie of separation. He didn't come to prove his power, he came to mirror ours. The alien turned to me again. "This is why you were shown this. Not so you would crave to leave, but so you would return. Not in body, you're already there, but in remembrance, in purpose." And then everything around us dimmed. Not because it ended, but because it folded back in. Like a dream you wake from, only to realize the dream is still happening, just from a different layer. I was back in the barn, the air still, my heart racing, my hands trembling, but something inside me had changed forever. I knew now that the afterlife wasn't somewhere else. It was right here, overlapped, interlaced, just waiting for us to tune in. Death wasn't the doorway, frequency was. And I realized something that made me sit down hard. The veil between this world and the next is thinning. And that's why the return of the Christ frequency is so urgent. Because as the veils collapse, we will either rise into remembrance or fall into illusion disguised as light. There will be beings that come claiming to be saviors, voices that promise ascension, technologies that mimic miracles. And if we don't know how to feel the truth, inside our own field we'll follow the shine instead of the source. So I sat there, eyes closed, palms resting on my knees, and I practiced. I tuned into gratitude, not for what I had, but for the remembering itself. And slowly I could feel it again. The thread, the stillness, the presence. That's where we'll go next. But before we do, I want to hear from you. What did you feel while reading this? Did your body react? Did your heart whisper something you couldn't explain? You can comment below. Something simple like "I remember the light," or if you saw something in a dream once, a place, a feeling, a being, share it. You never know who else saw the same thing. If this moved something in you, if it resonated like this video so it reaches more people like you, the ones who came back to awaken. And subscribe, because what the alien showed me after this wasn't just about the soul, it was about the origin of all things. When I opened my eyes again, the light in the barn had changed. It was warmer now, golden, almost liquid, like the air itself had been transformed by what I'd just experienced, as if somehow bringing that memory of the after back into this dimension had altered something invisible but real. The veil hadn't just thinned, it had been touched, and the alien, he hadn't moved, but I could feel it. His frequency was stronger now, more present, like showing me that realm had reactivated a part of him too. I saw it, I whispered, my voice barely audible. He nodded, "And now you're ready." I didn't ask for clarification, I knew what he meant. The origin, the beginning of it all. The question that had haunted humans across every age, every book, every temple. Where did we come from? Not just the human body, not just the soul, but consciousness itself. He walked back toward the ship and placed his hand on a smaller panel near the base. It opened like petals unfolding, revealing a smooth, circular stone. Not technology this time, but something older, something sacred. He picked it up gently and placed it in the center of the barn floor. And then he looked at me. "You will not see this with your eyes. You will remember it with your field." I stepped forward. The moment my feet crossed the invisible boundary around that stone, I felt it, like static, buzzing, but not from outside me, from inside. Like every atom in my body was being tuned slowly to an ancient chord, one I'd heard before but forgotten. The barn disappeared again, but not violently, gently, like a curtain lowering in a silent theater. And then I was there, floating, not above or below, just within, a place before time, before light, before form. There were no stars, no darkness, no dimensions, just awareness, endless, pure, unshaped. It wasn't empty. It was everything before it became anything. And from that vastness, I felt it, a pulse, a single infinite breath, like the inhale of a being that wasn't a being, but being itself. No voice, no face, just presence, total, whole, untouched, and then the first vibration. Not a bang, not chaos, a song. That's what the alien had meant when he said everything began with frequency. Creation didn't explode, it sang. A tone emerged from the stillness, and in response, light formed. Geometry unfolded, patterns spiraled. And from those patterns, the first realms were born. Not physical, but vibrational. Layers of experience, each tuned to a different note. And I remembered, we are not creations of God. We are extensions of that original tone, fractals of the song, living notes within a divine composition that has no beginning or end. I saw the soul of humanity as a tapestry, each person a thread of sound, woven through eons, carrying both memory and mission. And then I saw it unravel, not by accident, but by design. A chosen forgetting so we could experience the joy of remembering. I felt grief rise in me, so much pain, so much war, so much loneliness. But then I saw the other side, the moments of laughter, of healing, of art, of holding someone's hand while they cried and remembering that you too once cried for the same reason. And I understood, creation is not linear. It's a looping remembrance. We fall so we can rise. We forget so we can feel the beauty of memory returning. And just as I felt myself being pulled deeper into the core of that source, the origin of all, the alien's presence emerged beside me. You are that song, he said, and so is everyone you've ever loved, even the ones who hurt you, even the ones who forgot themselves. I saw faces, old ones, my father, my mother, my childhood friend, even the man who betrayed me decades ago. I saw them not as roles, but as frequencies, each playing out their own version of forgetting and remembering. He continued, judgment is the last veil, the illusion that others are separate notes. But when you hear the full symphony, forgiveness is inevitable. Tears fell from my eyes. I hadn't cried in years, but this was different. It wasn't sadness, it was release. A letting go of lifetimes of holding, of trying, of grasping. I wanted to stay there forever, but the alien's tone shifted. This is not where you remain, he said. You are a messenger now, a frequency holder. You must carry this remembrance back. And just like that, I was back in the barn. The crystal still warm in my hand, the stone gone, but the knowing still pulsing inside me like a second heartbeat. I looked at him. You've shown me everything? Why me? He smiled, or perhaps it was my heart smiling through him. Because you asked, and because you were willing to lose your identity to find your origin. I thought about everything, the Jesus hologram, the false light, the frequency shift, the veil, the remembering, and now, the origin. And I realized something I never expected. The most divine truth is also the most simple. You are not here to be saved. You are here to sing again, to align, to forgive, to walk through the collapsing world with clarity, not panic, to carry the tone of origin in a body that aches and still say, I remember. And if you're still here, still watching, still breathing through these words, maybe you're remembering too. Maybe something in your chest has been humming quietly since childhood, waiting for someone to tell you that you're not crazy, that you're not late, that this is exactly when you were meant to remember. So if it stirred something in you, even the smallest vibration, let it move. Comment below. You don't need to explain it. Just write something like, I remember the first song, or tell me what moment in your life felt like a crack in the illusion, even if you didn't understand it at the time. Every comment, every story, every sentence becomes another thread in the symphony. And if you want to help others feel this too, like this video, it's not for numbers. It's so the algorithm of the machine is overwritten by the algorithm of the soul. And subscribe if you're ready, because what the alien said next was the most personal message of all. After everything, after the visions, the remembrance, the veil lifting, the origin being shown, I thought there was nothing else. I thought that was the end. But the alien wasn't done. He stepped forward, not as a teacher, not as a higher being, but as something closer now, familiar even, like someone who had seen me across many timelines and was finally allowed to speak without distortion. You've remembered the origin, he said, but there is one more thing. His voice wasn't distant anymore. It didn't echo in my mind like before. It was here, human, grounded, personal. He sat down across from me, and for the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt from him before. Tenderness. I'm not here to guide you anymore, he said. I'm here to remind you of a choice you made long before this incarnation. I froze. What choice? He looked into me, not just at my eyes, but into my field, into the blueprint of my soul, and something opened. Not a memory, but a contract. A moment before birth, before form, where I said yes, not a fearful yes, not a pressured yes, a powerful one. I will go, I had said. I will carry the frequency. Even if I forget, even if it breaks me, even if they laugh, deny, betray, or ignore me, I will still remember. I will still love. I will still return to the tone. And then he showed me what came next. I saw Earth again, but not as a planet, as a frequency experiment. A place so layered, so vibrationally dense that souls could forget completely. And then, through their own will, find their way back. I saw the moment I entered, not my physical birth, but the entry into this life. That instant where soul meets matter, where purpose meets amnesia. And I saw it clearly now. I had chosen this lifetime not to be comfortable, but to be clear, not to be safe, but to be sovereign, not to be loved by the world, but to be lit from within, even if no one else could see it. The alien leaned forward. "You didn't come here to be saved," he said softly. "You came here to remember that you already are," and those words pierced through every illusion I'd ever clung to. I remembered how many years I'd waited silently for someone to show me I was enough, for someone to validate the chaos I felt inside, for someone to tell me I wasn't broken. But now I saw no one was coming to say it, because I was the one who chose to come. And be the validation, be the remembrance, be the presence, even in the silence, even when no one's listening, even when the old wounds whisper, "You're still not worthy." That's when you anchor deeper. That's when the tone gets clearer. That's when you become the portal you were always meant to be. He looked at me then, as if watching my frequency stabilize. "You've seen enough," he said, "but what happens next is up to you." And I understood. This journey wasn't about following light. It was about becoming it, in the mundane, in the mornings where I felt heavy, in the conversations where I doubted myself, in the moments when my old identity clawed its way back in and told me I was still that lost version of me. But I wasn't. Not anymore. He reached into a small compartment on his chest and pulled something out. A circular object, etched with symbols that looked like they were made of sound itself. He handed it to me. "What is it?" I asked. "A mirror," he said, "but not for your face, for your field. When the world begins to distort your memory again, and it will hold this, let it show you your frequency, not the one you pretend to have, the one you're actually radiating." I gripped it tight. It vibrated. Not strongly, just enough to remind me I was alive and choosing. He stood up but didn't walk away. Instead, he did something I never expected. He bowed, not in submission, in recognition. "Shh, you are not my student," he said. "You are my mirror. We came to remember each other." And with that, he stepped back into the ship. But this time I didn't feel abandoned. I didn't feel small. I didn't even feel like me, the old me who needed proof or comfort or someone to tell him what to believe. I felt still, clear, free. And if you've made it this far, if you're still here with me, maybe you felt it too. Maybe this story didn't just entertain you. Maybe it activated you. Maybe something in your chest, your gut, your bones has been humming louder as the words unfolded. Not because you're hearing something new, but because you're finally remembering something ancient. So let me ask you something personal. What was the moment in your life that made you question everything? What was the first crack in the illusion? Was it a dream? A loss? A silence that felt too heavy to ignore? Comment below. You don't need to write a paragraph. Even just type, "I chose to come back." Or tell me the feeling that keeps coming back. The one that says, "There's more than this. I read every single one of your stories and I'm building something with them. Something bigger than an audience, something resonant." So if this message moved you, like this video so it pulses out further into the field. And subscribe if you haven't yet, because the final part of this journey isn't about the alien, it's about you. And the moment you realize you've always been the one holding the key. The ship was gone, not with thunder, not with fire. No. Grand spectacle in the sky, just gone. Like it had never been here at all, but I had. And I wasn't the same. The barn was quiet now. The night had returned. But it didn't feel dark. It felt alive. As if even the shadows had softened, knowing I no longer feared them. I stood there for a while, just listening. Not to words, not even to thoughts. Just to the frequency around me. The hum of the earth, the breath of my own body. The silence that wasn't empty, but full. For the first time in my life, I wasn't searching. I wasn't asking the universe for signs or proof or purpose. Because I was the sign now. I was the proof. And the purpose, it wasn't a job. It wasn't a title. It wasn't a spiritual checklist. It was this: to remember, to live in alignment, to carry the Christ frequency, quietly, faithfully, even when no one sees it, especially then. You see, all of this, it wasn't about aliens. It wasn't even just about Jesus. It was about the reminder planted inside every single one of us that we are not just bodies walking through a broken world. We are portals. Each thought is a signal. Each emotion is a vibration. Each act of presence is a beam of light through the veil. And when enough of us remember that, we don't need to wait for heaven. We bring it here, right now, in how we breathe, how we forgive, how we resist the temptation to numb, to rush, to forget again. Because yes, the forgetting will come back. The distractions, the doubt, the noise, but so will the bread, the stillness, the frequency. And now you know how to feel it again. I want to thank you, not just for watching, but for feeling, for staying, for listening, not just with your ears, but with your soul. You didn't have to be here. There are millions of other things you could be doing right now. But something kept you watching. A whisper, a memory, a vibration that said, "This is real." Maybe it shook something loose in you. Maybe it brought tears or silence or a strange peace you can't explain, or maybe it reminded you of why you came here in the first place. If that's true, then this wasn't a video, this was a remembering ritual. And now, I want to invite you to carry it forward, not as a follower, but as a frequency holder. Live it in the quietest moments. Let your presence speak louder than any sermon. Let your compassion disrupt the illusion. Let your gratitude rewire the field. And when the world tries to make you forget again, when fear returns, when the pressure rises, just come back to that moment in the barn. That stillness, that light, that truth. You were never lost. You were disguised. A divine tone hidden in a human life, waiting for its time to vibrate again. And if this was your time, I'm honored to have witnessed it with you. Before we go, I want to ask one final thing. When you feel ready, truly ready, comment below something simple, something true, something like, I carry the frequency now, or I choose to remember. Let it be your first public declaration of this shift. Not for attention, not for validation, but because speaking it anchors it. And when you speak it, others will feel it. You will become the permission they didn't know they were waiting for. If this message found you at the right time, if it opened something in your chest, like this video so others on your same path can find it too, and subscribe if you haven't yet, because this isn't the end of the journey, it's the end of the forgetting. And if you're wondering where to go next, what to watch, what to feel, what to open, there's a video appearing right now on your screen. It's not random. It's exactly where the frequency wants to take you next. So breathe, let your shoulders drop, feel the light in your chest, and when you're ready, I'll meet you there.